Hello viewers, hope you are doing well. Today I would like to discuss with you a very interesting topics. I had a requirement to implement a business logic. Uh, I would like to show with you that the logic's implementation. The requirement was uh, the DML button will be enable only one row if only one row is selected. Here you can see the demo. If multiple row or no row is selected, then the button will be disabled, and if only single row selected, then the button will be visible and enable to perform the task. So let's start the practical session. First, create a blank page, then create a region to display some data for testing purpose. You can use your production table. I use only here my testing environment. Here I use the employees table from a study schema. Preparing SQL query for displaying the data. I have shown you with both case for interactive report and interactive delete how to implement this for both regions. There is a little bit difference for two regions to implement these logics. First, I am showing you how to implement it on interactive reports regions. Here I have taken an extra column which is displaying as a checkbox on that report using built-in item creation API of FX. ID means this field's static ID, and value means if selected, then which value is passed for that item. Attribute is JavaScript or HTML, any option you can use. Here is the item by default displayed. We need to some properties changes, especially escape the special character need to toggle off. This is the main option to need to change. Then it will display as a checkbox. Now we are going to change the heading of that checkbox item. Instead of text, now we can add a JavaScript function on page level to check all rows by selecting the check all button. Check all button means check box. Here I take an parameter which is passing the region ID, region static ID. When I click the checkbox, by capturing that checkbox using the class of that checkbox item which we assigned earlier here. Here, based on this class, it will perform the actions. We need to assign a static ID for that purpose of that region. Now we call that function using that static ID of that report regions. Now check. Yeah, that's working fine. Now we are going to create a button to perform the actions. Some modification changes of that regions. Um, Create a button here. We will working for that button to enable and disable. Change its positions. Now create a JavaScript function to enable and disable conditionally of that button. By default, this button will be disable. That's why I am write that course on that uh, JavaScript code when page loads. Here, this code will fire when the page loads. It will disable the item, sorry, button. Now create a JavaScript function for disable disable the button. Here I am going to create the function, the button name, sorry, function name. We need to count the rows selected first. Based on that region ID, first count the selected row and then check the condition, how many row is selected. If selected row number equal to 1, then the button will be enabled. That's mean CSS class added on that button, otherwise disable the button. That's it for interactive grid region, sorry, interactive report regions. And the button by default disable when the page load. Yeah, when the single row selected, the button will be enabled. When multiple button checkbox is selected, then the button going to disable. That's for the interactive region. Now I am going to showing the process for the interactive grid region. That's why I take a tab region to display the two region side by side as like tab. Here the interactive region, assign the tab and create a new region, interactive grid region. Copy that query and paste that region source, query source. Here we have no need to that checkbox item because interactive grid region provide that facilities. We need to assign static ID of that region and I am assigned it. Now change the hide the toolbar. and take another button for that interactive region, interactive grid. Change it static, assign it static ID of that button. This button will be enabled disable based on the static ID. That's why we need to take the static ID. Now, what you have to do, editable option, you need to say yes. And then you need to, we are going to create a dynamic action on that region. To create dynamic action, true action is JavaScript, execute JavaScript code. First capture the data model of that interactive grid regions, and then loops through the records to get the ID of that primary key of that selected row, and concat store it a variable by concatenating, and then we will count how many rows selected. Here I have concatenated the selected row ID, row primary key ID. That's its employee ID of that reports is the primary key. In interactive grid, we must select the primary key column. Here we count the colon, how many colon concatenate uh, in the string. That's mean for every colon is one row selected. Now the condition applied, same condition as like the previous one. If row count equal to 1, then the button will be enabled, and be, otherwise the button will be reachable. we need to assign a value of that id. First we're missing that logic. I will share this code in the description box. That's it for today. Now check. By default, the button is disabled. If single row selected, then the button will be enabled. If multiple or nothing is selected, then the button is disabled. That's it for today. Thank you for watching. If found helpful, please like, comment, shares, and subscribe. Thank you for watching.